Today we're going to be continuing our discussion with the fiscal year 2012 recommended budget, and we have really just one item to cover today, and it's to discuss the recommended adjustments to the budget that was filed back in April. And this is, we have this every year occurring where we have adjustments that arise because of new information, changes that we just need to be made. And so before we adopt the budget, we come to the Finance Committee, present those recommended adjustments, and then have you forward those to Council for approval, and they'll be incorporated into the adopted budget in June. We have 1 page worth of adjustments we're going to go through fairly quickly, but be sure, ask questions if you're not sure. Some of these you'll recognize because we've talked about them as part of the budget presentations from departments, but again, if there are any questions, just feel free to ask. I'm going to turn it over to Michael Pease. He's our budget manager. He's going to present these in detail.
Very good. Mr. Pease.
Thank you, committee member. Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. Michael Pease, budget manager. I'm going to go through the staff proposed adjustments today, and just to kind of orient you to the page that we're looking at here, we have 3 columns of data. First is the estimated revenue that we're recommending to change. A positive number is an increase, a negative number is a decrease. And then the next column is the change to appropriations, the same positive number being an increase and a negative number being a decrease. And then the last column, if there's any impact to or net impact to the use of reserves, that'll be noted in the last column. Also, a negative number being a use of reserves. So the first item is in the City Administrator's Office. There is additional revenue of $6,500 for the taping of the Santa Barbara City College meetings. This is for the monthly Board of Trustees meetings. And so we have additional revenue coming in for that, and then additional cost for hourly salaries to cover those meetings. The next item, Fire Department. This is actually a technical adjustment to the budget. Does not have an impact to the bottom line of the general fund or any department budgets, except that it shifts $53,000 from the Fire Department to the Police Department budget. What it is we set aside money for the mobile data computer replacement. These are all the computers that we have in the police and fire vehicles, and there's $53,000 that really should be better allocated in the Police Department budget. And so we're just going to go ahead and move that down. That's our recommendation.
And what's the reasoning behind that?
Well, it's actually for the replacement of the Police Department portion of that.
Oh,
so
okay.
It actually belongs in the Police Department budget.
Okay.
We've had it in fire, and so we just need to move it down. The next item for non-departmental, why don't I go ahead and skip that, and I'll come back to it as it relates to an item a little further down. The Police Department, the first item is the increase to the redevelopment funding for the restorative policing efforts. This is the item that was discussed at the Police Department budget presentation, and this is the final number now. We were finalizing and coming up with a final number for that. And this actually is increases the original estimate of $135,000, kind of that plug that we put into the proposed budget, increases that by $217,000 to a total of $352,000. The next item is the shift of that mobile data computer item, so that again moves it down into the Police Department budget. The moving on down to the Public Works Department. This item relates to the transportation, the traffic engineering section of Public Works. During their presentation, they worked on a reorg in that section based on recent turnover, and so this is an additional change that is needed that will provide engineering support or oversight to that particular program. And so what it does is actually generates $43,000 in savings to the general fund, which relates back to the non-departmental item, which is an increase to appropriated reserves of the same amount. And so the net impact to the general fund is zero as far as use of reserves or addition to reserves.
Okay.
So if there's any questions on the general fund, be happy to talk about those at this point.
Mrs. Self, any questions? Okay, please continue.
Thank you. So the next section is related to our county library fund. This is the funding for a number of small branch libraries in the county and city of Goleta. The first three items are related to the city of Carpinteria library. They updated their estimate based on from the Friends of the Library for that city. They're reducing their funding by $15,000, and as a result, they are reducing their book acquisition budget by $7,500 and their hourly budget by $7,500. Again, just for the Carpinteria Library. And then the last two items are for the city of Goleta. The Friends of the Library there is also reducing their contribution, and to offset that, they've actually got an updated estimate from the county or from the city of Goleta, but via the county, via the city of Goleta from the county for the library parcel tax, additional $70,847. So the net impact is a use of reserves or additional deficit of $3,853, which is so that is entirely in the Goleta library budget.
Mr. Peace, just an arithmetic question. The 18,853, how does that happen?
Yeah, it is actually the 18,000. There's the 15,000.
Oh, I see. Yes,
yeah.
Of course. Okay.
So it's the total of that section.
I misread it. Thank you.
So moving along, the redevelopment agency fund also has. This is where the funding is coming from for the restorative policing efforts. The additional $217,000 that's going to the general fund is coming from redevelopment agency budget. And the project contingency is being adjusted accordingly to put that fund back into balance. The last item is in the streets fund, and this is related to the 20% shift of the assistant public works director mentioned above in the general fund. This is to provide additional engineering support and oversight to the streets program. And again, to rebalance that fund, we've taken those monies from the resurfacing program. So with that, I take any questions you may have.
Okay. Mrs. Self, any questions?
No. Thank you.
The source of funds for resurfacing, is that UUT and Measure A, or?
That's in the streets fund. That is measure
Or Measure D?
gas tax, and UUT.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Yeah, just one more thing, and so of course we're going to look for a recommendation
Okay.
from the committee on these. One of the changes that are going to be made, that is going to be made in the production of the adopted budget in August, once we adopt in June, and we'll be producing the document. It's a change that we're making to the Parks and Recreation Department that doesn't really change the numbers. They've asked us to consolidate two current programs, into one. One relates to cultural arts, and one is another program for facilities and for management, better management and supervision, and even for tracking of revenues. They wanted to combine those two programs into a single program. So there will be a difference in terms of what the adopted budget will look like relative to the recommended budget. You'll see only one program, or that's been consolidated. And just wanted to give you a heads up about that, because it's possible you look at the adopted budget and be looking for some details on one of those programs, and you won't see it. You'll see it combined. And we'll make a notation about that, but I thought we'd just let you know about that just in advance. It doesn't change any of the numbers, doesn't require any adjustment to any departmental numbers. It's just a programmatic and presentation change.
All right.
So that's really all we have.
Okay.
So looking for a
I
recommendation.
move recommendation of this to full council.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Done.
All right. Thank you very much.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.